I've had this conversation at least 50 times in theme park lines. As a kid in New Jersey who went to Six Flags every summer, conversations with a fellow queuing stranger were a weekly occurrence. It didn't matter if I was in line alone or with a group, someone would always find a way to enter the conversation. Sometimes they would comment on the ride, queue, or the park itself, but others would simply say hello. I was never a particularly talkative kid, and wouldn't call myself a talkative adult, yet I remember that conversations in these lines flowed so seamlessly that it felt like they were guided by the railings of the queue itself. I returned to that same Six Flags for the first time in several years last winter, and, while my brother and I were waiting in line for the Jersey Devil coaster, a voice behind us said hello and started a conversation on the park's winter schedule. In line for another ride, another person struck up a conversation. Then again in line for the Joker. Then another one while we were inside the Justice League ride. It was just so weird. In a post-pandemic world where so many people are still hurt socially and screens take up most of our idle time, conversation is a rarity in almost all public situations. Yet social interactions in these theme park queues were unchanged, and were an unexpected but wonderful throwback to what I remember the 2000s being like. I clearly took all of those wonderful conversations for granted as a kid, and I didn't realize how much I missed them until returning to the theme park. So why does conversation flow more naturally in queues than any bar or coffee shop I've ever been to? Sure, it could be a simple question of boredom while waiting upwards of 2 hours for a ride, but it's happened so frequently that it has to be something deeper. We all wait in lines, so let's dive in. What if I told you that lines at your favorite theme park are part of something much, much larger than you or I? It's no secret that a good theme park line makes or breaks the experience for the riders. And while attractions and their queues come in all shapes and sizes, let's explore what makes them chatty by focusing on two of the most talkative lines I've ever waited in. That of the late King Ka, may it rest in peace, at Six Flags Great Adventure, and that of Expedition Everest at Disney's Animal Kingdom. During its 19-year run, King Ka was, at one point, the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the world. Situated in the Golden Kingdom section of Six Flags Great Adventure, this ride had a simple but effective queue that matched the jungle aesthetic of that area of the park. Riders would enter through this passageway next to a snack stand and a locker station, walk under the iconic stone arch, and weave through a dense bamboo forest before arriving at the most memorable part of the queue. Before proceeding towards our ride vehicle, let's conduct a brief exercise on managing the flow of people. To do so, let me invite you to the Magic Queudom. It has all your favorite rides, like Splash Mine, Pirates of the Baltic, the Jungle Boats, Mount Space, Peter Pot's Flight, Thunderdome Railroad, and Da the King, whose real-world counterpart was actually imploded the day I'm recording this. Here we have a pretty standard line with maybe 20 people in it. Now, let's zoom out and add what we'll say is 80 more people. Imagine you're person number 80 and all the way in the back, 79 people removed from the front. It's a long way there, and you're bound to feel annoyed at the massive amount of queue between you and your destination. Theme park designers in the 1900s knew that this was a poor parkgoer experience and introduced another option. Now let's try queuing 80 plus people in a different way. This is even more people than our last line. I mean, this section alone holds roughly 18 tiles more. But what's this? Suddenly the person in the back can see everyone in the row in front of them, and can see them again, and again, and again. There are still plenty of others waiting, but suddenly the wait doesn't seem as bad because the ride appears closer than before. A wrapping queue like this lets you people watch and strike up a conversation with your neighbor or the row in front of you, and overall just makes the line experience feel more seamless for the person waiting. You've probably caught on by now, but this section is a serpentine style of queue invented in the 1900s called a switchback. And this example is the switchback section on Kingda. Adding switchback sections to theme park lines revolutionized the queuing experience. And to fully understand why, we need to discuss what makes something a good line. That's where queuing theory comes in. As the name implies, queuing theory offers a solution to the societal problem of having to wait in line for things. It discusses two major gripes that participants have while waiting in a line: boredom and the perception of fairness. A good line is one that meets both of these basic needs. Think back to a time when you waited in line at Disney. Whether it was the queue for Flight of Passage or Pirates of the Caribbean, these lines employ show elements, smells, music, and sound effects, and have a general sense of theming that makes the queue feel like part of the attraction. While theme park lines have evolved to include bigger and better theming, they are grounded in historical queuing practices that have been serving theme parks well for generations, just like the switchback. Let's apply this analysis to the Kingda queue to see the reason it was so memorable. Kingda's line has had two iterations since its 2005 debut, but kept the theming strong in both. Loosely themed on South Asia and named after a tiger in the Six Flags Safari, Kingda's queue featured bamboo-lined sections and music that added a mystical air to the experience, when it wasn't playing Eye of the Tiger for some reason. The original queue had guests go through the same arch as the new line, under the track, through two switchback sections, before finally entering on the far side of the station. As shown earlier in the video, the more recent queue had riders go through a bamboo forest before looping around into a switchback, and then entering the station on the side nearest the entrance. What's interesting is that the old queue had a launch observation platform where guests could watch the ride vehicle go from 0 to 128 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds. This section was converted to a switchback in the more recent version of the line, but provided a similar spectacle due to its proximity to the tracks. I personally watched the ride launch from the switchback section dozens of times, and something about peering through the bamboo to just get a brief glimpse of the ride launching that fast provided an amazing spectacle. And as our run-in with Topher at the beginning of this video showed, this spectacle almost always led to conversation. This and the other elements discussed made the queue feel shorter than it was, and I never felt bored or unfairly treated while in line, making this a good line, according to queuing theory. Let's keep this analysis going by taking a look at another amazing queue. Disney's Expedition Everest uses similar queuing techniques to Kingda, but to an even greater level, as one would expect from a world-renowned theme park like Animal Kingdom. Themed after an expedition in the Himalayas gone wrong, the ride features gear, relics, and photos in its queue that tell the story of a close encounter with the mystical Yeti, a being who riders can only assume they'll meet as well. Similar to Kingda's launch, this sense of dread around the Yeti creates anticipation that gets folks excited while waiting in line and helps curb boredom. Like Kingda's queue, the line also features numerous switchback sections located here, here, and here, that help control the large number of riders in Disney parks and allow participants to look around and feel a sense of camaraderie with their fellow riders. This, along with several interactive elements like ringable bells and an area to throw coins, provide a sense of entertainment in line and aid in that communal nature of waiting. This helps create a sense of togetherness and sameness, which helps the queue feel fair overall, making this another good line according to queuing theory. Now, we know what makes a good line, and we have two great examples of good lines. But why exactly do these good lines cause conversation to flow so freely? To better elaborate on that question, we turn to the social sciences. Picture this, your sociologist Irving Goffman looking to conduct some field research on the rules and norms of Las Vegas casinos, a place that other social scientists have called a grotesque Disneyland. Along with your statistician friend, you take a seat at the blackjack table and are dealt your first hand. After making some money, you are asked to leave the table by the floor manager and do so, but that isn't enough to satisfy you. So you rejoin another casino as a dealer and study the other side of the social interaction. All this to say that Goffman was a bit of an anomaly in sociology, the kind of dedicated researcher that the field couldn't help but idolize. Fueled by his time in grotesque Disneyland, Goffman's body of literature applies just as well to actual Disneyland, and theme parks in general. Taking a top-down approach, Goffman's theory discusses the idea of frames that, as the name implies, frame the appropriate behavior we must follow in a social interaction. For example, let's say you meet someone for the first time. How do you say hello? What do you talk about? What about posture, eye contact? We answer all of these questions and more by keeping in mind the frame. The frame is a tool used to describe the collective knowledge of your past events and experiences, as well as a general understanding of cultural norms that govern interactions. I know this is a lot, but stay with me now. One aligns themselves with the frame in an effort to maintain face, a type of social value that we earn by acting within the appropriate confines of the occasion, like how we intrinsically know to start a new friendship with small talk instead of asking about someone's love life. This is done by following what Goffman calls your line, a series of actions and judgments that we follow to act how one would expect us to act in a social situation. All interactions are operated in this way where the specific situation dictates the specific behaviors, not the other way around. Something Goffman famously illustrated when saying, "Social interactions are not men and their moments, but moments and their men." Waiting in line at a theme park is a social interaction, with its own frame and set of behaviors governed by that frame. Pretend you're waiting in line for your favorite ride, and you're right next to where the train launches, joking with your neighbors about how fast the ride looks. Anticipation is building. You're feeling good. You turn towards the back of the queue to do some people watching, one of your favorite pastimes in line. When, all of a sudden, you see it. People begin parting, and what's this? You see someone coming towards you. The parting reaches you, and you hear it. "My friends are further up in line. Sorry." A line cutter. And, while their friends may actually be further up in line, you begin to feel a sense of frustration. You've waited an hour to get to this point, and they walked right past you. You begin to bubble over with annoyance and notice the folks around you are doing the same. A conversation starts about how rude line cutters are. The frame in a line demands three things: fairness, patience, and civility. Everyone in a line waits their turn and feels a sense of camaraderie when doing so. So here you are. You've been maintaining face and following your line for the last hour, being cordial and patient while trains are loaded and unloaded. But the line cutter? They've violated the rules of the frame. And the pissed off expressions of everyone in line shows that he might have lost some face. Some may have even tried to block his path because rules are rules, and one person violating the frame causes everyone to have to correct course to maintain group harmony. There is a clear physical and social force at play in this interaction that instructs participants how to behave and sets explicit behavior patterns while they're waiting. This goes both ways, where violating the frame, like our line cutter, causes social isolation. Operating within the frame creates positive social value. Outing a line cutter makes those who waited feel better about themselves, creating a positive social charge and ultimately harmony and camaraderie while in line. This in turn reinforces the rules of the frame and creates a continuous cycle. Here we have the heart of Goffman's theory, the interaction ritual. Frames sustain frames in every social situation from now until society collapses. A theme park queue is both a physical constraint and a social constraint. Socially, because of the aforementioned interaction ritual and the rules that govern these spaces. And physically, because you are quite literally waiting in a certain way with a shared goal in mind. Physical rules include only moving when the person in front of you moves, staying within the confines of the rails, starting at the back of the queue and moving forward, and following the layout of the line. Social rules include being courteous to your neighbor, not cutting, and a general sense of patience and curiosity while waiting. This means a line's frame is to mentally and physically endure the line and reach the attraction, and to do so with as much social cohesion as possible. Shared action and shared goal aligned, There is a sense of cohesion in theme park lines. Cohesion that acts as a social lubricant in conversation. What is required for engaging in a conversation? An excuse, a shared frame of reference that two individuals can bond over, just a general sense of mutual interest. Cues have them all. Social harmony overflows from these spaces. So much so that those who invented the Switchback cue designed it with passing conversations and people watching in mind. We discussed this effect earlier when analyzing King Daka's cue. For another example, let's think of a speed dating event and how it acts as a channel to facilitate the interaction between two strangers. In a way, good cue design does the same thing. During one of my first trips to Universal Studios in Florida, the queue for Revenge of the Mummy had a 2.5-hour wait. After an hour of waiting, my brother and I approached the Switchback section in the line that had an interactive element. Being mummy-themed, this section featured a sarcophagus with 4 hand symbols on it. If someone placed their hand on the sarcophagus, a light would shine and angelic music would play. My brother and I thought that this was hilarious, as did the 2 people touching the sarcophagus with us. We quickly got to talking and became friends by the time we reached the ride vehicle. Well beyond the humble origins of the Switchback, cues continue to evolve with this type of theming and interactivity in mind. For example, several years ago, Disney introduced a heads-up pack in its parks, themed after its characters and IPs. This is a free download if you're on Disney property and have the Heads Up app. And several Reddit threads I found during my research mention how much they love this, and how it caused them to play the game with those around them in line and make some new friends. Disney also introduced a Disney Play app several years ago, another free download that has ride-specific games for 3 to 4 players. Several Reddit threads also mentioned how great this was for passing time and making friends. From the 1950s invention of switchback cues to virtual experiences introduced in the last few years, theme park designers understand that lines are inherently social, and have created queuing experiences from the ground up with this in mind. From a business perspective, the line moving faster, whether through conversation or other interactive elements, improves customer satisfaction, and happy customers come back more often and spend more of their money. It's an arrangement where both sides benefit. So let's recap. Waiting in line, especially theme park lines, is inherently a group experience governed by similar feelings, rules, and goals that all align under a shared frame. Those who follow the frame will be rewarded with positive face, and those who violate the frame, like our line cutter earlier, will lose face and be outlawed or corrected by the group. In this way, the frame reinforces itself, and theme park designers go to great lengths to keep the group experience strong and interactive in line. All caught up? Great, then let's talk about social energy. Think of the last time you were at a sports event, concert, a gathering, or really any place where people are collectively excited. I bet you felt a pretty strong social rush. Let's dive into that feeling by turning to social scientist Emil Durkheim. Another sociologist, Durkheim believes society was an overarching force that dictated the rules and norms of every interaction, which might sound similar to another theorist we discussed earlier in this video. While the two theorists share some differences in their thought process, it's a bit too niche to go into in this video. In terms of broad, overarching conceptual statements, we can compare the two pretty easily. To Durkheim, social order is similar to the way one worships a god or a deity. Social pressure is put on individuals through mental channels that, to paraphrase Durkheim, are too obscure, indirect, and complex to fully understand. Like the frame, this social pressure causes everyone to act and behave in a certain way which promotes harmony in the group. This whole experience is referred to by Durkheim as collective effervescence. Collective effervescence happens when excitement and anticipation build around a shared experience. It takes shape at parties, festivals, sports games, concerts, and really any event where people feed off each other's energy, creating a shared buzz that pulls the individual into a larger collective excitement. Like these events, theme park lines are an experience directly tied to group anticipation and collective excitement. You go to a theme park and queue up for an attraction to have fun. Other people are also queuing up to have fun, otherwise they wouldn't have paid to enter the park or gotten in line in the first place. This excitement, combined with the presence of unspoken rules and norms, creates a sense of group identity that brings the individual above themselves in a way that feels empowering and almost euphoric. Or collective effervescence. In a way, the question of why strangers talk more in theme park lines becomes a question of energy. A theme park is designed to be something you, your friends, and/or your family are excited about. Once you enter the gates, you are transported to an alternate reality that exists solely for your enjoyment. Colors, smells, and theming all entice you and immerse you as you navigate a park. Energy is created and overflowing while you're there. Theme park designers understand that energy well and have built the entire experience as a way to harness it. Your positive energy is channeled through the theming, the flow of the queue, and the interactivity in line. Queue experiences are built from the ground up to keep you satisfied while waiting for an attraction. A switchback gets you talking because these strangers are with you and feel united by a common goal, interest, and frame. The excitement in line exceeds the individual, and the collective effervescence felt makes conversation flow easily. We feel a bond with strangers in line, which is why it feels so seamless to talk to them while we're all waiting. Talking makes the wait move faster, and in turn boosts your satisfaction as a customer, making it preferred and even profitable for theme parks. And this works. The line does move faster when you chat with a stranger, play a game of Disney Heads Up with those in line, or when a shared interest in the queue's theming starts a conversation. Keeping folks entertained in line is just another technique theme park designers use to improve the customer experience. It's all done in an effort to facilitate the consumer's energy and keep them happy while waiting and spending time at their park. Because a happy consumer is an open wallet, a recurring visitor, and a reinvestment for the park for years to come. In the same way that blasting music during a sports game hypes up the crowd, theme parks work tirelessly to keep attendees charged and feeling good. To use Durkheim's theory again, this makes the act of waiting in line a type of ritual. Durkheim believed that rituals don't have to be religious and can be applied to every event where collective effervescence surges, like in a theme park. Lines are a ritualistic process where these particular behaviors and feelings are enacted together in a way that solidifies those waiting as one unit. This echoes Goffman, who believed that ritual, and stay with me on this quote, however informal and secular, represents a way in which the individual must guard and design the symbolic implications of his acts while in the immediate presence of an object that has a special value for him. Or, in the simplest terms, you are conducting a ritual of waiting in line while abiding by the frame to reach your reward, the ride. Whether it be a switchback queue, themed lines, show elements, some of the more recent options like Disney Heads Up, or a combination of everything, theme parks have commercialized the ritual process to increase customer satisfaction, and ultimately to make more money for themselves. Conversations in lines are a simple but extremely important byproduct of this, and are something we shouldn't take for granted. Society is conversation starved. In a world where we can talk to anyone, anywhere, in a matter of seconds, we've somehow managed to distance ourselves from genuine social interactions more than ever. As a kid in the mid-2000s, I remember people talking to me constantly, at the pool, on the playground, or really any other time I left the house. Connecting with a stranger felt effortless, but somewhere along the way, that sense of togetherness and community disappeared. Theme park queues are a unique microcosm, one of the last places where spontaneous conversation feels natural. Sure, theme parks have found ways to profit off this in the process, but they've also created something rare that we should cherish. A space where talking to strangers isn't just encouraged, it's almost inevitable. Whether you're chatting about how fast the ride looks or where you're from, it's a kind of connection you don't find much in the outside world. Conversation in theme park lines isn't just about passing the time, it's about tapping into a shared energy. A collective charge that brings people together in a way that's just hard to replicate. So, The next time you're in line for your favorite attraction, take a moment to appreciate the magic of those small interactions with strangers. In a world so starved for connection, these moments of genuine engagement are more valuable than we could ever realize. And perhaps they're exactly what we need to bring a little more humanity back into our everyday lives.